gracefully broken. You may be seated.
Beat that. There we go. Kids can start making their way downstairs with Tessa. And head down that way. We're going to keep having fun up here. Excellent. Oh my, how's everybody doing? Good? I'm good, I think, yeah. We had a good weekend. We had a busy weekend. We were up in Putnam County for Tessa's cousin was getting married, and I was officiating that service, and so we were up there having a good time. It was a Friday wedding, so we were up there like Thursday evening and Friday afternoon, and kids were excited because they got to skip school on Friday, so that was a win for them. Wedding or not, they got to skip school and then dance and have fun all night, so that was good. So they're all a little worn out. We're all a little tired, but it's a good day. And as I say that, I know I look back on the week and I think about, stuff we were able to accomplish, and it doesn't maybe look like there was a lot accomplished, just some things torn up. But there's a lot of things you're like, oh yeah, we get that and that and that and that. That was good. It felt good to get some things done, right? You ever have those days where you just mark a lot of things off your to-do list? How many of you love that feeling? Like when you look back on your day and you're like, I got a lot done today. It feels so good, right? And as we get a lot done and it feels really good, it makes us think about how much, in some ways, no matter how much we may complain about all the work we have to do, no matter how much we sometimes say, I'd love to just slow down and rest, we really like the sense of achievement, the sense of marking things off a list and feeling like we've accomplished some things and gotten some stuff done. That's a really enticing, good feeling. Now, there are other days where we do a lot of stuff. Like me personally, there's a lot of days where I do a lot of things. For example, there are Mondays where here lately, Nora and Silas have been participating in the kids' climbing club over at Hoosier Hills, which is fun for them. That's kind of one of their Christmas gifts from their aunt. They get to go over there and rock climb. It's kind of fun watching them be 30 feet up a wall, and Silas is just cruising along like no big deal. That's a lot of fun for me to go in there and see. But I don't stay the whole time. I just drop them off, and then I go back. And then Tessa and I cross ways because she's taking Elliot to swim practice over at South because Elliot is doing swimming right now. And then about the time she's coming back from that to finish getting food ready, I'm taking back off the other way to go get the kids from climbing club shortly thereafter. And then there's this crisscross back and forth where now Ellie is getting picked up from swim practice and needs to go to campus life, which we love and we're happy to be at. And Monday night is a very busy night. And yet at the same time, at the end of it, I have done a lot and don't feel much of a sense of accomplishment, right? It's like we did a lot, but nothing got done off my to-do list, right? Busy is different than productive, right? And it's this concept of being busy and productive, like we want to feel productive, we want to feel like things are going on, but we kind of want to break because things are busy sometimes. But deep down, if we're honest with ourselves, we really struggle to want to take a break from getting things done off of our list. Because when we try to stop and slow down, when we actually try to rest in Sabbath, there's this list of things that runs through our head that we should be doing, that we start to feel guilty that we're not doing, and all of a sudden we're just feeling like, I should be doing this, I should be doing this, I could be doing this. If I slow down and have some time off from work, if I have some time off from the busy schedule of everything else that's going on, I could be getting this accomplished. And it's not always just work. And that's what I want to talk about a little bit this morning is this idea of what it means to cease or stop. You ever heard the term cease and desist or something? It's kind of like this, another word for stop. And we discussed the idea that Sabbath, that term Sabbath, which we've started talking about last week and kind of built this understanding of Is it a command? Is it not a command? Why do we need it? Do we not need it? Like, why is it important? If you missed that, definitely go check out last week and catch up a little bit. But as we start talking about, like, what is it we're actually supposed to do during Sabbath, this first word we kind of want to lean into is just the simple idea of what the word really meant to begin with. Stop. Cease. Take a break from some stuff. And the first thing that comes to our mind is the work. And so therefore, what we've thought for a long time is as long as I have some time off of work, I'm Sabbathing, right? Whenever I got my first job in ministry, there was a discussion when I got hired on. And it was, when do you want to take your Sabbath? Because we recognize as a pastor in ministry, you will be here on Sundays, working. Not just back then, it was like I had several things to do throughout the day. Sunday was a very, very busy day that usually didn't wrap up for me with youth group and playing volleyball afterwards when it was nice enough and hanging out with students and all that stuff. Sometimes we might not be done until after 8:39. And then if somebody said, hey, let's all go to Bob's afterwards, because Bob's Pizza is a thing. If you're ever down in that neck of the woods, check it out. It's pretty decent. If any of them are listening, I'm sorry. It was just okay. I know you guys love it, but it's good. But anyway, Bob's Pizza was the place to be on a Sunday night, so we might be hanging out till 9:30 or 10. It just depended. It was a busy day. So the question was, when do you want to take your Sabbath? What that really meant was, you are considered to be available at all times, no matter what, really, 7 days a week. But what day do you not want to have to be responsible for work, even though you will still for sure work on that day from time to time? And so there was a day that I had my day off. I believe mine was Mondays. Was it Mondays? Fridays. No, it was Mondays. Yeah, Mondays. Back then, I had to think. There's been a few different options. Back then, Monday was my day off. And so we get through the week of Sunday, and then I had Monday off. And then that was the day I was free to be at home and try to get some work done around the house, to do other things. It was a break from my career and my job. And I think oftentimes that's the way we just think about it. As long as you take a day where you are not at your career job, you have taken a break and stopped work for Sabbath. Because we discussed last week as we looked at those 10 commandments, and it says, stop all work. You may work 6 days, but on the seventh day, rest. And so as long as I'm taking a break from my career on that one day, I've accomplished my task, right? But then as we discussed last week, there's some of that legalism that sneaks in, and we start saying, well, yeah, but there's some other things we probably shouldn't do, right? And I've heard different explanations for this over the course of my time growing up in the church. Well, why is it you don't want to go spend money out at a restaurant on Sabbath, on Sunday, on the day off? Why is it we don't go out to do that? Well, the reason is that if we go spend money, then the store will want to stay open, and therefore those people have to work on the Sabbath, and they don't get their day off. And so the reasoning really had little to do with me. So really, is it all that I'm supposed to stop is my own work? I can't pick things up. I can't do things. You saw the Pharisees and the scribes of Jesus' day be very legalistic about that. Well, you healed somebody. Well, of course I healed somebody. Wouldn't you go rescue your sheep if it fell into a ditch on the Sabbath? Well, of course you would. Why wouldn't I rescue one of my children on this day? Well, your disciples were picking grains, out of the field to eat on the Sabbath. Well, that's work, isn't it? Kind of taking care of yourself to some extent, and Jesus kind of breaks down some of their legalism. But is there anything else that we're supposed to take a break from? What other things do we really need to occasionally just stop, cease, take a break? One is absolutely work. But before we get into that and this other list of things, let's read this passage of Scripture that we're going to kind of revolve around a little bit today. It's in Exodus chapter 16, verses 1 through 8, and then we'll kind of skip a little bit, and 21 through 30 will be this next chunk. But I just want to look through the story. You might recognize it as we get into it and kind of pick these verses apart. They set out from Elim, and all the congregation of the people of Israel came to the wilderness of Sin. Now, this is a place, not the wilderness of Sin is not like metaphorical. This is a place they were in. They were heading out from one place to another. They are wandering in the wilderness here in Exodus chapter 16. They've been set free, right? They've been given their exodus from Egypt, set free from slavery, and God is leading them, and here they are in the wilderness, and they start to grumble a bit, which is between Elim and Sinai, on the 15th day of the second month after they had departed from the land of Egypt. And the whole congregation of the people of Israel grumbled against Moses and Aaron in the wilderness. And the people of Israel said to them, would that we had died by the hand of the Lord in the land of Egypt. Would it have just been better? We could have been killed back there instead of being led out here to wander around in the middle of nowhere. We had stuff back there, right? When we sat by the meat pots and ate bread to the full, for you have brought us out into the wilderness to kill us, this whole assembly, with hunger. We're hungry. We're whining. You ever been around a kid who's just like, I need a snack. It's the end of the world. I need a snack. This is kind of what I imagine, right? And I can imagine God being like, oh, I've never fed you, child. I understand. I get it. I've never given you anything good. I'm a horrible parent. I'm sorry. But anyway, then the Lord said to Moses, behold, I am about to rain bread from heaven for you. And the people shall go out and gather a day's portion every day, that I may test them, whether they will walk in my law or not. So this is important here, right? God is offering this grumbling, whiny people that he just rescued with this amazing display of plagues, this amazing display of parting the Red Sea and them walking through in Exodus. You're still not impressed. Okay, I got it. You wish that I would feed you now. So I'm going to provide bread from heaven. It's going to rain down bread. The trick is, I'm still concerned that you whiny, grumbly people can't follow my law. You can't trust my goodness. You can't trust that I'm going to provide and take care of you. So what I'm going to do is offer you a day's portion. Just a day's. And you're going to have to go pick it up and collect it, so that I can see as a test whether you're able to walk in my law. On the sixth day, when they prepare what they bring in, it will be twice as much as they gather daily. So every day, 6 days a week, you will work. You will go out and gather your food for the day. But on the sixth day, you're going to gain double the amount, because there's a day where you're not supposed to work. I've already kind of instructed that this day is a day of rest, right? And I will continue to instruct it that much more here shortly when the 10 Commandments come around. So Moses and Aaron said to all the people of Israel, at evening you shall know that it was the Lord who brought you out of the land of Egypt. And in the morning you shall see the glory of the Lord, because he has heard your grumbling against the Lord. For what are we that you grumble against us? And Moses said, when the Lord gives you in the evening meat to eat, and in the morning bread to the full, because the Lord has heard your grumbling, that you grumbled against him, what are we? Your grumbling is not against us, but against the Lord. So we have this little moment here where he's saying, listen, you're going to be provided for, you're grumbling, you're whining, you're moaning, all these things have been heard, and you're mad at us, but really what you've been saying is, I don't trust God to provide. And so we move on a little further down in this passage. It says, morning by morning they gathered it, each as much as he could eat. But when the sun grew hot, it melted. On the sixth day, they gathered twice as much bread, 2 omers each. And when all the leaders of the congregation came and told Moses, he said to them, this is what the Lord has commanded. Tomorrow is a day of solemn rest, a holy Sabbath to the Lord. Bake what you will bake, and boil what you will boil, and all that is left lay aside to be kept till morning. So they set it aside till the morning, as Moses commanded them, and it did not stink, and there were no worms in it. Moses said, eat it today, for today is a Sabbath to the Lord. Today you will not find it in the field. 6 days you shall gather it, but on the seventh day, which is the Sabbath, there will be none. On the seventh day, some of the people went out to gather, but they found none. And the Lord said to Moses, how long will you refuse to keep my commands and my laws? See, the Lord has given you the Sabbath. Therefore, on the sixth day, he gives you bread for 2 days. Remain each of you in his place. Let no one go out of his place on the seventh day. So the people rested on the seventh day. So this is a story specifically that takes place as they're wandering in the wilderness, really breaking down this idea. You're working for 6 days. I'm providing everything you have. Your labor is not really getting you anything. It's my provision. But when you receive my gifts, you go work for them, bring them in, but don't overdo it. Don't over-acquire. Don't accumulate too much. Don't take in everything you need that you think you need for the week. Don't try to cram it into all in one moment. Spread it out. Do what you've been told. Follow my law. Take what is there for you, except on the 6th day. Do a little extra work in preparation, because on that 7th day, there will be none, because I don't want you to go work. But I am still going to provide. And I tell that story because I think as we kind of look at this concept of what is it we're supposed to stop, and the heart and the nature behind what God is doing and what He's calling these people to, He's saying, look, this work and this preparation and all these things are not necessarily broken or a problem, but you're going to need rest, this holy, set-apart day to stop and remember and celebrate and do these other things. And so I don't want you consuming all this other stuff. I don't want you trying to provide for yourself. I don't want you trying to do so many different things on this day. It's for something else. So here's what you need. It will keep just long enough. Because every other day, if they tried to collect for 2 days, what the extra that they gathered would just rot and get worms and get nasty and gross. And so work is absolutely something that we're called to stop. This idea of wanting to get things done, this sense of accomplishment, it's important. And we kind of understand, like, our body needs rest. Our mind needs rest. When we go at 100 miles an hour, like I said to begin with, it's a long weekend, right? Not only was it a long weekend with other things, we were just busy, but then we had this really exciting basketball game that got my heart rate all up, and I got all worked up, and that took a lot of energy out of me too. I may have yelled a couple times. My kids were like pretty excited. Our living room was pretty wound up. And Ellie was texting her friends, and they're like, yeah, it's kind of the same way at our house. Like, everybody expended a lot of energy yesterday afternoon. I get it. But in the midst of all the stuff, it's like our mind needs a break. Our body needs a break. It needs an opportunity to slow down and rest, to catch back up. We talked a little bit about that last week when people have tried to extend the work week and tried to say, let's be more productive by working 7 or 8 days or 10 days, and then taking these days off. People crash and burn, and mental health goes through the floor, just goes into terrible places because people just don't thrive in that environment. Our body is designed in the course of creation to have a rhythm of rest. And so work is important to take a break from, but I think it's more than that. I think one of the other things we need to take a break from is this sense of accomplishment. It's easy sometimes in the midst of what we do, not just to work to gain for ourselves or to fulfill our own needs, or just to take care of enough for today, but you know that in our society there's a lot of other reasons we work really hard. We got to outdo everybody else. We got to climb the ladder. We've got to work everybody else under the table to prove that we deserve what we have. Those people don't have this because they don't work nearly as hard as I do. I give it my everything and my all to accomplish so much because what I'm trying to do, what I'm trying to accomplish is important. What I want to achieve, what I want people to know me for, that's important. And it goes beyond just the work we do. In fact, it's funny. I don't think accomplishment sometimes is nearly as much of a work thing as it maybe once was. I still think climbing a corporate ladder and, making one jump from one career to another or kind of trying to find that sweet spot of achievement that we want for our lives is something people still chase. But even long before that, like, our society has created this weird mess where, like, I got these rings on my watch that say, hey, have you moved enough today? Have you worked out enough today? Have you reached your goal and achievement? Have you done your stuff today? Because we'll give you a little ding and a celebration of your achievement at the end of the day if you close all those rings. Little kids play video games, and like Silas will like say, hey, I'm playing this app, and why? It looks boring. Well, because I want to get all the stuff. I want to collect all the items. Why? What do you get if you collect all the items? I get all the items. What do? Nothing. I have them all. Like one of his favorite things is Pokemon. What's the slogan for Pokemon? Gotta catch them all. There's literally no other points of the game except gotta catch them all. Because that's the achievement. If I can give you something to chase, an accomplishment, an achievement, some goal to set, some bar to fill, some ring to close, something that keeps it in front of you, makes you feel like, ooh, yeah, I got to keep moving. If I have that checklist, that to-do list, I don't know about you all, but whenever I work, if I make a list before the day starts and I'm knocking things off that list left and right, man, my productivity goes way up because I want to see all those check boxes filled out. I want to see all of them done because accomplishment and achievement feel good. Even if no one else is celebrating us, it just feels good. We're kind of addicted to this sense of like, yeah, I can puff up my chest a little bit, brag about this day. I can lay my head on the pillow and feel good because all the things I set out to do are done. My accomplishments have been met. My rings have been closed. It was a successful day. And when we don't do that, how do we feel? Worn down, beat ourselves up. We worry about all the things we didn't get to today because we got interrupted. We get frustrated and short with people whenever they interrupt us because we're trying to get all these things done and they need our attention. And like those moments where I'm the worst dad are those moments when I'm trying to be productive, and sometimes worst husband when I'm trying to be productive. Tessa will often ask me when I really get going, because I'm kind of an inertia guy. When I get busy doing stuff, like I'm in the groove and moving and getting things accomplished, like I don't want to slow down because I don't want to mess that up, because once I slow down, it's hard to get going again. And she'll be like, "Are you okay?" I'm like, yeah. "Are you sure you're not mad?" "Yeah, I'm sure." And like we've figured this out over time. Like she knows now, I'm not mad. But when I get productive, I also just kind of block everybody out, right? And get moving and get going because I want to accomplish the tasks. So what does it look like to take a break from that need for accomplishment? What does that do in our lives? Because when we take a break from work, it allows our body to rest. But when we take a break from accomplishment and achievement and needing to get things done, when we cease, it gives us room to remember what actually gives our life value. Because catching all the Pokemon doesn't make me who I was created to be. Closing all the rings on my watch doesn't make me the person I was created to be. Oftentimes, slowing down and talking to my wife and children, or my neighbor, or my friends, investing in a relationship and having a conversation and not rushing off to the next thing is part of me being who I was created to be. And I don't have room to see that sometimes if I don't ever lay the accomplishments down and find the peace of mind at being okay with the idea that those things are sitting there and they will still be sitting there tomorrow when I get back to work. The idea of letting myself be forgiven, letting myself be okay with not needing to accomplish whatever that is. Because like I said, it doesn't have to just be the to-do list. It can be a number of things. One of the things I've stopped doing on our own Sabbath, not every time, because there's weeks that are different, and I get that. But one of the practices I have tried to do more often than not is when I wake up or when I start Sabbath and go put all my devices away, I hang this one up there too on the charger, because then those stupid little rings aren't telling me to do certain things. The time isn't telling me that I'm supposed to be doing something else. When I let go of what time it is, when I let go of what achievements have been met today, when I let go of any other dings and notifications that might draw my attention, it helps us kind of settle into that groove, right? There's a book that I've been reading. I mentioned one last week, Sabbath, by Abraham Joshua Heschel. This week, I meant to bring it up here, but it's back there. I'll show it to you if you want to see it. It's called Keeping the Sabbath Holy. W-H-O-L-L-Y, holy, completely. That's where I got this word cease. Marva J. Don is the author, and it's written quite a while ago because she said this was her first book she ever wrote on a word processor, not like a keyboard, or not a typewriter, and not a computer, but a word processor, that kind of in between. So it's a little dated. It's been around for a while. But this is a quote from that book. In our 20th century spirituality, we easily lose the notion of God's provision for us. Because of our advanced civilization and its distance from the actual process that provide material goods. A major blessing of Sabbath keeping is that it forces us to rely on God for our future. On that day, we do nothing to create our own way. We abstain from work, from our incessant need to produce and accomplish, from all the anxieties about how we can be successful in all that we have to do to get ahead. The result is that we can let God be God in our lives. That line, we let go of needing to do all the things we can do to get ahead, so that we can let God be God in our lives. And it's actually the next thing on my list that we kind of need to take a break from. We need to take a break from trying to be God. In that story, what do they want to do? They want to gather the food on Sunday, even though they were told not to. They want to gain extra during different times so they don't have to work on his schedule. They can kind of take control of their own schedule. They want to be in control, and even if it means slavery, at least I have a pot of hot food on the stove, because me being in control feels better than me having to rely upon and depend on what I cannot see coming. We are not good at letting go of the steering wheel of our lives. Don't misunderstand me. Please hold on to your steering wheel when you're actually driving, unless you got some cool Tesla that does some stuff I don't know about, okay? And even then, I'm not sure I'd trust it. So, maybe give it a couple more years. But in our lives, when it comes to us driving, we want to grip that steering wheel of control. I want to be able to get food when I need food. I want to be able to do these other things when I need them. I want to take control of what I have and when I have it. I want to go shopping and get my food and make sure my fridge is stocked. I want to work hard to make sure my bank account is full so that I want for nothing. And if my furnace goes out, I got a backup in reserve. I want to make sure that all these things are in order and in line so that I have what I need and I'm not missing anything. Because what if, well, I better make sure I have insurance for this, because what if? I'm not saying don't buy insurance. Don't misunderstand me here. But you know how we think. Well, have you prepared for this? What if this happens? And we live all worried about what may or may not happen. And when we live this life walking through needing control, needing to be concerned about our schedule, well, if I don't deal with this immediately, things are going to fall apart. Are they? Some things we need to let go of. Ceasing this need to be God in our lives, because we try to live just like those people did. It's easy to throw stones from thousands of years in the future, reading a story, looking back and saying, wow, why didn't those people just trust God? He was obviously providing for them. But if I was in the wilderness and my stomach was grumbling and I didn't see any plants, I didn't see all this stuff that we had in Egypt, and I'm not sure how this is going to work, what would I be worried about? How are we going to eat? It's great that you brought us out here, God, but what's the plan? Because we always want the plan. We always want the next steps. We're worried when we don't know the schedule. Can you tell me what the whole schedule is? There was this little game I played. I had a couple students when I worked in Tennessee in youth ministry. I had a couple students who would come in every week. Every week. They would immediately walk over to me at the counter and be like, what are we doing tonight? What's the game tonight? And I'm a jerk. I'm not going to lie. And I'd be like, I don't know yet. What do you want to do? Like, you seriously don't have a plan? Well, no. Should we have a plan? Should we have a schedule? Is that a thing we need to do? It just worked them up so much. And I had a plan. I had a schedule. I had stuff figured out. But I knew that they needed to hold on to, like, what are we going to do? What's next? What's happening? I need to know. And I knew they could handle that. There's some kids I wouldn't do that to. I'm not a total jerk. But we all kind of live that way. We want the information. We want to know, what's this thing going to look like before I sign up for it? I don't know. I'm not sure. I want a little control. And Sabbath is an opportunity to lay that down and say, God, I trust in your provision. To look back and realize the ways he has provided, and to stop worrying about what is ahead. To take a break from thinking about all the things I'm anxious about, which is another thing we need to kind of take a break from, the anxiety that drives us, because that lack of control gives us a lot of anxiety. Nick, if I don't have a plan for the next 3 days, I didn't say you couldn't have a plan. I said we just need to be able to stop and take a break and step out of that for a minute, because it produces in us this worry and anxiety and fear of what may or may not happen. Paul has these words in Philippians chapter 4, and it's really hard for us to practice them, and it's really easy to say, just stop worrying. Like, wow, you could make millions with that concept and philosophy this day and age, as everybody's going to counseling and therapy because of the fear and anxiety and the worry in their life. If you could just stop, man, that would be great, right? And sometimes that's the reason we've dismissed mental health in the past, because you should just pray harder and it'll all just go away, which is not the way it works. But honestly, we also live a rhythm and a pace where we don't ever take a break long enough to give God an opportunity to be trustworthy. And so we don't help ourselves. We just amplify it and make it worse. And there's some things that rhythm is going to really ease, and there's some things that really need something beyond that. I understand that. I'm not trying to say this is a fix-all, catch-all. But being able to lay down some of our most basic worries and fears and anxieties in life, Paul talks about in Philippians chapter 4. Rejoice in the Lord always. I will say it again, rejoice. And again, if we're just going breakneck speeds nonstop and we never take a break from anything and we don't ever stop and give God this space we've been talking about, it gets really hard to rejoice because we don't have time to slow down and look at the good things. Rejoice in the Lord always. Again, I will say it, rejoice. Let your reasonableness be known to everyone. The Lord is at hand. Do not be anxious about anything, but in everything, in prayer and supplication with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known to God. And the peace of God, which surpasses all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus. Again, this idea of letting there be room to stop and rest gives us the opportunity to do what Paul tells us will help us accomplish that task. Because he says, finally, brothers, whatever is true, whatever is honorable, whatever is just, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is commendable, if there is any excellence, if there is anything worthy of praise, think about these things. What you have learned and received and heard and seen in me, practice these things. There's that word again, practice these things. And the God of peace will be with you. Anxieties, fears, concerns, worries, work, the need to be in control, all this stuff continues to add up, and it's not even the end of my list, to be honest. And I recognize I probably, at this point, should have split this in two. But we're going to burn through these last three real quick. There's a couple other little pieces in this puzzle. Possessiveness. It's the same kind of thing. I need achievement. I need accomplishment. I need something to take care of these concerns and worries in my life, all the anxiety, all the need for accomplishment, the need to keep up with the Joneses, the constant bombardment of commercials that say you need this, you have to have this, this will make everything better, makes us want things. We talk about why we don't spend money on the Sabbath. It's part of letting go of that control, that need to go do something, that need to acquire and gain something that you think is going to fix some need in your life when it's really God that's going to fix that need in your life. And so I still have this desire, I want, I need to get a hold of, I need to buy, I need to own. What if we took a break from spending and laid those things at God's feet and stopped worrying about what all we could gain and stopped to think about what all we've been given? Had a moment to stop thinking about what it is I can get today. Because in our minds, a lot of times it's not like, God, I'm going to pray because I just thought of this need in my life. A lot of times what happens in our world, at least, you tell me if it's different in your world, is like, God, we have this need in our life. I wonder if that's on Amazon. Yep, it'll be here in 2 days. Cool. Problem solved. Because, again, sometimes we think that the solution to our problem is something that can be here in 2 days and just show up. But what if we took a break and cut ourselves off from that need to have, the need to hold on to, the need to have everything, and actually gave generously, let go of stuff, took a break from the need and just kind of let go and let God help us see what it is we do and don't need in our lives? Might be beneficial, right? This one's my favorite one. Cease from enculturation. Her word, not mine. Marva Dawn, I stole that one from her. This being indoctrinated by culture. Yesterday, the game started at 4 o'clock. My Sabbath ends at 6. Now, it was already a weird weekend because I was at a wedding technically working the night before, and it was an odd weekend, and things were just a little off schedule as always. But that didn't stop me whatsoever, and it probably wouldn't have from the Purdue IU game because I live in Bloomington, and culturally speaking, I mean, you got to watch that game, right? It's like required. And especially because of how big of a deal that game was, I was actually walking into it going, I'm ready to have my heart broken. Let's do this. So that I can really just mourn with everybody this morning. That was honestly what I thought I was going to do in terms of our culture. But when we live in a culture, we feel like we need to keep up with things. If it's not an IU basketball game, go Hoosiers. Because, yay, we get to celebrate and my heart wasn't broken. That was a lot of fun. My nephew, who is a Purdue fan because his father went to Purdue, was off having a little mini staycation thing in Indianapolis, and my sister sent us a picture. The kids were in the pool swimming, and they had an iPad pulled up with the game on it. And I sent my nephew a text afterwards. I said, I hope the pool was fun. The game was for me, but I doubt it was for you. But in the midst of all that, we feel it's not just a basketball game. It's that new Netflix show that everybody's been talking about that we need to binge. It's that thing that everybody else has that we need to probably get on and get. It goes back to that acquiring stuff. Everybody else has got this new fancy device or this new thing for their house. Or, man, their house looks really good and ours doesn't. Or, oh, they got this new cool thing. I mean, this even works its way into the church, and not just our church. Like, I had a friend who was a missionary one time, and we were sitting down having dinner, and he's from a country in Africa, and he was talking about the churches in Africa, and he goes, it's really kind of frustrating how American church culture, is how he worded it, not me, has impacted our church culture. Because no one used to care if anybody else had anything else. We were just excited to go worship Jesus and be there. But then that church over there got a piano. And because they had a piano, they got to do this. And then all of a sudden, all these churches needed a piano. And they were really worried that they didn't have a piano like the other church did. And now they're fussing and worrying about pianos rather than celebrating Jesus like they used to. And it's the same kind of thing for us. I'm worried that I need to keep up with the news because I won't know what everybody else knows. I won't know about Chinese spy balloons. And then what will I ever do if I don't know that there's one over my head? Just keep doing what you're doing. It's all right. If you carry a phone in your pocket, they're already listening. It's all good. Just relax. Let God be God, right? It's okay. If I don't keep up with the news cycle, let me tell you what, your mental health will probably be better. All the things we feel like we need to keep up with and worry about and hold on to, we need to consume from our phones, our TVs. You've heard me say we turn off screens and put our devices away. That's because we want to stop from enculturation. This need to keep up with everything that's going on, to be in the loop, to need to know everything, to have all the information, to be like everybody else, to take a break from that takes away some of its power and grip on our lives. And so when we talk about stopping, I don't want us to get wrapped up in just stopping work. This one I thought is just a good sum of all of it. Because in the big picture of who God has created us to be, giving up and taking a break from the meaningless and the humdrum, just the everyday blah that we give ourselves over to, that distracts us from being who God created us to be, which are His followers who love the Lord our God with all of our heart, soul, mind, and strength, who love our neighbor as much as ourselves, who invest in the kingdom of heaven to see His kingdom come, His will be done. If that is the main focus of our life, and we are consumed with all of these other things in such a way where we're just trying to achieve, we're trying to gain, we're trying to hold on to, we're trying to keep up with the Joneses, we're trying to be like all these other things, and I'm so stressed out and worried about all of it, and maintaining control and spinning all these plates at once, and we look at culture and go, why are we the way we are? And why do we hear people constantly say, let's just calm down and take a deep breath? Because we as a people are not good at establishing a rhythm where we stop and take a break. To let our eyes be fixed on what's most important. We don't do any of those things for legalism because you have to take a break from them. Each and every one of those in and of themselves may not be sinful or broken. They can be when we let them rule our lives, just like every other sin. It may not be a sin until we let it rule our lives. And it's going to continue to rule when we give it prominent positions and nonstop access. But when we put it in its place and say, today, you go away. Today is for him. Today is for me to rest in him. Today is for me to remember who it is he has made me to be by stopping all the other meaningless, humdrum things that I let consume my life and fix my eyes on him. And so 6 days we work. On the 7th, we stop trying to maintain control. We stop trying to be like the Israelites who just want to gather enough and have as much as we can. We stop being like those people who want to acquire it all and do all and be all and have all and worry about what's tomorrow and all these different things, and we just stop and trust in God's law and God's provision. He was testing them. But we've got Jesus, and the old law has kind of passed away and things have changed. Today, he's not testing you with what you can give up. He is offering you blessing because he knew from the beginning, like we discussed last week, that this law was for our benefit. The Sabbath was for man, not man for the Sabbath. And so he is not testing us, but he is offering us a gift and a blessing. If we could occasionally cease, stop, and just unburden ourselves with the weight of all those things for 24 hours, for a break, for a period of time just to stop, step away, and surrender to him. Let's bow our heads. I just encourage you to think for a minute. If you were to stop everything for a day and really put life on pause, what are the things you're worried would fall apart? Let God identify and make those things real, the stuff you really have a hard time letting go of and letting go of control in. What are the things that would consume your thought and your mind and eat you up during that day? Let God reveal those to you. At the same time, I just encourage you at that point to say, God, could you help me see a way where I could think ahead, be intentional, prepare to actually find a way forward to trust you with those things more completely in my life? What are some steps I could take this week and the next couple of weeks, maybe not to practice a full 24-hour Sabbath, but just to start finding ways to not let those things dominate and rule my mind and my heart and my life? To actually let go and let you be God and let you take control and to trust you and unburden myself from some of this fear and anxiety that controls me at times. Father, our heart's desire is not to create legalism and law in our lives. We don't want to be like the Pharisees and scribes that you corrected so many times before and create structure and rule that everybody else has to follow or to be a good Christian. But Father, our heart's desire is to create some structure and rule of life in our own hearts and world so that we can do a better job of following and trusting in you. And so, Father, I pray your peace over each and every one in this room, that you would help them to hand over control, to surrender that control, to give over the things that worry and consume and create anxiety, that they would be able to trust in you fully and know you fully and be able to find some space to learn how to stop to cease these different areas of life and to take a break. Father, I pray that you would help us to grow and learn in these ways more and more every day, and that they won't just be things we talk about on Sunday, but that they can be structure and routine and practice in our hearts to make this real practice in our lives, that like Paul says, we would put our teaching into practice so that we can take hold of this image bearing that we've been called to do, to be like you, to become like you, and do the things you did. And so, Father, I just pray your blessing on each and every one of us as we wrestle through these ideas over the next few minutes during communion, during worship, that as we surrender our hearts and our minds to you, that you would do your work in us and that we would continue to surrender our lives to you. It's in the precious name of Jesus I pray. Amen. We're going to the table at this point. As we pass this around, we have an opportunity to stop and remember. Again, that moment of preparation is a big deal. I think sometimes what makes it hard to lay all these things aside and to actually stop is the fact that we think we're just like slamming on the brakes. Friday has become one of my favorite days whenever things go as normal, because I'm super busy a lot of Fridays, or at least a lot of Thursdays. In order to make it work and actually let it be a time of refreshing, I have to work ahead and plan and prepare. There's a lot of energy that kind of goes into like getting the house in order and getting food in order and things so that I don't have to worry about all that stuff, but can actually rest the way I want to. And it always makes me think of the Passover meal. The preparations that went into it, the Israelite people were told to sweep the house and to make preparations to sweep out all the leaven, to do all these things to get the house in order, to prepare this lamb in a certain way, to go through all this routine, because as we lead up to that moment, it prepares our hearts to receive the goodness of what we're celebrating. And it's the Passover meal that Jesus and his disciples prepare for. They go ahead and make arrangements to be in this upper room, and that's where they are after all the preparations have been made, when Jesus says, "Take this bread and take this cup and do this in remembrance of me." And there's not much preparation that goes into us sharing in communion. Someone preps these cups beforehand. But for each and every one of us, we just kind of get to sit down and partake, and there's not that lead up and preparation. And so we've kind of got this moment of sermon and receiving the word to prepare and ready our hearts. But this is the moment where we kind of lean in and try to celebrate and remember the goodness of what Christ has done for us. We do this in remembrance of him, just like they did to remember that Passover meal. So I encourage you today, maybe take a moment to hold the bread and the juice, prepare your heart just a moment before you take and eat and drink, just to remind yourself that our goal in taking the Lord's Supper, our goal in stopping these other things in our life is the same goal. We do this to remember him, to fix our eyes on him, to know him, to let him be Lord and ruler of our life. So we take these moments to break and stop to do this in remembrance of him. Father, I love you, and I pray that you would meet with us in these moments as we stop and surrender our hearts to you. It's in the precious name of Jesus I pray. Amen.
the chasm that lay between us, how high the mountain I could not climb. In desperation, I turned to heaven and spoke your name into the night. And through the darkness, your loving kindness tore through the shadows of my soul. When work is finished, the end is written. Jesus Christ, my living hope. Who could imagine so great a mercy? What heart could fathom such boundless grace? The God of ages stepped down from glory to bear my sin and bear my shame. The cross has spoken, I am forgiven. The King of Kings calls me his own. Beautiful Savior, I'm yours forever. Jesus Christ, my living hope. Hallelujah, praise the one who set me free. Hallelujah, death has lost its grip on me. You have broken every chain. There's salvation in your name, Jesus Christ, my living hope. And came the morning that sealed the promise. Your buried body began to breathe. Out of the silence, the roaring lion declared the grave has no claim on me. Then came the morning that sealed the promise. Your buried body began to breathe. Out of the silence, the roaring lion declared the grave has no claim on me. Jesus, yours is the victory. Hallelujah, praise the one who set me free. Hallelujah, death has lost its grip on me. You have broken every chain. There's salvation in your name, Jesus Christ, my living hope. Jesus Christ, my living hope. Oh God, you are my living hope.
All right. Will you please stand if you're able and continue this worship time with us?
Lord, I confess, bowing here, I find my rest without You stood before creation, eternity in your hand, and you spoke the earth into motion, my soul now to stand. And you stood before my failure and carried the cross for my shame. My sin weighed upon your shoulders, my soul now to stand. So what can I say? What can I do? Offer this heart, oh God, completely to you. So I walk upon salvation, your spirit alive in me, my life to declare your promise, my soul now to stand. So what can I say? What can I do? Offer this heart, oh God, completely to you. So what can I say? What can I do? Offer this heart, oh God, completely to you. So I'll stand with arms high and heart abandoned in awe of the one who gave it all. I'll stand, my soul, Lord, to you surrender all. I am is yours. So I'll stand with arms high and heart abandoned in awe of the one who gave it all. I'll stand, my soul, Lord, to you surrender all. I am is yours. So what can I say? And what can I do? But offer this heart, oh God, completely to you.
Oh my. As we wrap up this morning, I want to remind you a couple quick things. If you are, I didn't mention this at the beginning announcements, but Joyce has been calling folks who already signed up in the past to be greeters, just to kind of get that schedule going. But if you haven't signed up in the past and would like to, there's a sign-up sheet back there for greeters. I did forget to mention that at the beginning of service. But if you have any questions about any of those things we talked about, if gathering, Sabbath practice, any of the stuff that's going on, talk to us about it. But more importantly this week, try to take some practical steps to reflect on what we're talking about, find some ways to stop, to cease, to take breaks from those things that hold on to and consume us. make space for him as we move forward. And one of the great ways to do that is start leaning into those Sabbath practices. So if you're interested, we'd love to get everybody through those at some point. We just know timing is tricky, so we'll get it sorted. I think that's it. But love you all and encourage you this week. If you need anything, holler at us. We're happy to swing in and help however we can. Let's close with a word of prayer and head back out this week. Father, I am so thankful that despite what we sometimes hold on to that may not be so great for ourselves, you do know what is good for us and what is best for us. And Father, it sometimes takes a commandment to kind of hold it in front of our face as important, and there's tests that are needed along the way. But Father, I thank you for this good and wonderful gift you've offered us in Sabbath and rest and break from all the other stuff that's not so great for us at times. And so, Father, I just pray that you would help us to understand the goodness of your heart and to know that you have our well-being at the forefront of your mind, and the benefit and well-being of the kingdom, and what the kingdom could be if we were all operating in the best, most godly way possible that you've called us to be. And so, Father, I pray that you would help us to hold on to that heart's desire to be kingdom people who are kingdom-minded, who want to follow our rabbi, to become like our rabbi, and to do the things you did. And so, Father, I just pray that you'd help us this week to follow Jesus and his teachings, and help us to spend as much time with you as possible as we go throughout this week. It's in the precious name of Jesus I pray all these things. Amen.